I see everybody is muted. Can somebody give me a sound check?
Hello.
Hello. I have a fan going on a little heater because it gets very cold where my hand goes. So can you hear the fan? Is it
No, it's fine.
that
Can't hear it, Dennis.
good? I can keep it on.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, keep your hand warm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ned, Stephen won't be able to join us this evening. I just received an email from him.
Steve Bishop.
Yes. You're muted, Ned. I can't hear you.
Oh, Ned.
Not showing up.
Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, Rich, how are you?
Good, yourself.
Good.
Good.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear
Yes.
you.
Okay, there you go. Um, well, it's nice drawings. Hmm. How are you, Bill?
I'm fine, Ned, and you?
Good. You got through the Thanksgiving holiday,
Yeah.
right?
I sure did. How about you?
It was great. Yeah.
Did your family come up from the south?
No, my son and his wife and our 3 grandchildren are down south. We
Yeah.
also have an the oldest is a daughter who lives up in the south, up on the South Shore. And so we
Yeah.
went up and spent a couple of nights up there.
Good.
It was great. And if it ever warms up on the West Coast, we'll go out and visit our other daughter out there.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Are we ready to
So-
rock and
I
roll?
think so, Ned. I don't
Okay.
believe we're missing anybody at this point.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Ned Moore, or Edwin Moore. I'm chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I'd like to call the December 13th meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals to order. Could you please, or I'll introduce the members of the board. Jason Brown is a regular member. Dennis Crow is a regular member. Rich Gilbert is a regular member. And sitting in for one of the other members who wasn't able to attend is Dylan Stella. And did I introduce you, Bill?
No, not yet.
Oh, you did? Okay, I'm sorry. Bill, I said hello to you. And Bill Piggott, who is a regular member. So I just like to remind everybody that 4 votes are needed to approve the application. And Aaron, are you Rachel Stubbs?
Raquel is our clerk for minutes.
Okay, Raquel, that's
Yes.
a new name. I'm sorry about that, Raquel. Raquel Stubbs will be the clerk for the minute, and she will read the meeting clause that was posted and on the web.
Yeah, just
Um,
Yes, I
one
can.
quick question. You indicated that Dylan was sitting in for somebody. I don't believe that's the case. Is that
One.
he's-
No.
We have 5 regular members.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I'm sorry, you're correct. Thank you, Dennis.
Okay.
So not this time, Dylan.
Well, shucks.
You're
Let's
fine.
see. I'd like to remind you that all plans and pictures are going to be part of the application and will become property of the board. If anyone would like to withdraw, the applicant would like to withdraw the application at this time, you may do so, or we will proceed with the hearing. And all persons addressing the board are requested to please provide their name and address for the record. Raquel, would you mind please?
I can read the legal
Please.
notice for you, Ned.
Okay.
I have it up.
Okay,
And just to introduce myself, several of
sorry,
you I may
Erin.
not have met. I am Erin Mannix. I'm the town planner and serving as the interim zoning officer and inland wetlands officer in John's absence. So nice to see you all this evening.
nice to see you.
It's
and
been a
thank you
while
for
since
helping
we
us
had a
out.
meeting.
It has been, yeah.
Welcome back.
Mhm.
Okay, notice is hereby given that the board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, December 13th, 2022 at 7 PM. The meeting will be conducted remotely as a Zoom online webinar. Further details, including application materials, are posted on the Town of Madison website at www.madisonct.org under the calendar link to this evening's meeting. Questions and comments can be emailed to the land use office at landuse@madisonct.org up to 24 hours in advance of the meeting. Tonight's hearing is number 8265, 885 Boston Post Road, map 39, lot 20, D District. That's the downtown district. Owner applicant is MMP Realty LLC. The variance request per section 6.2.3B to allow side yard setback of 2.5 feet and 12.5 total, where 10 feet and 30 feet total are required to demolish existing mixed-use building and construct new mixed-use building. Variance request to allow 12 parking spaces on site where 19 are required per section 8.1.4. This is published by Ned Moore, the chair. It was published once in the source on December 1st and again on December 8th.
Okay.
And attorney Michael Solzbach is here on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Chair, and Wayne Garrick, once you open that hearing.
Okay, great. Michael, would you mind unmuting and you can proceed?
There we go.
There
Good
you go.
evening. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay,
Excuse me. This project is the old Elizabeth on
yes,
the post road next to the stone bank, just to get you located. And the real, probably for what we're doing is in part in section 14 of the app. Shows that what's really happening is that we are
Pardon, Michael.
Going to-
can I-
excuse me, Mike.
Solzbach, can I interrupt your feed is very
Breaking up.
choppy. You're freezing up and breaking in and out.
Hello?
I'm here.
You're frozen.
No, you're breaking up.
I
You're
don't know what
frozen.
else. I don't know what else to do.
Can you, perhaps if you cut the video,
Phone, if that helps technically.
I,
Um,
It might.
Using a laptop or a cell phone?
This is a laptop where I am now.
Okay. I don't know if the cell phone would have better
Try to cut the video out. That'll
connection.
free up some
I just
bandwidth.
got something popped up on mine, said my internet connection is unstable too, so that's the downside of using Zoom, I guess. So,
Yeah.
well, I suggest we let them go and we backtrack as necessary to ask questions. What else can we do?
What's that?
What?
I suggest we let them continue. And then if there's some point in time, we just wave to them or something and say, nope, back up and we'll get things done or whatever it is it takes to get them the time.
Well, we may not be able to hear him.
Yeah.
Can you speak to us,
He
Michael?
looks frozen right now.
He is. So how are we gonna do
Okay,
that?
so he just exited, so we'll give him a
Yep.
minute.
Okay.
Wayne, did you want to, I don't know how you were dividing and conquering here this evening, but if there was any aspect related to the
Sure.
architecturals or the site plan that you might be able to start on while we're waiting for Michael to join
Yes.
us?
We'll wait for him to come back and explain the variances and the legal part. But my name is Wayne Garrick. I am an architect. I've been in my own practice just about 43 years and an architect for 47. My office is located on Whitney Avenue in New Haven. Just very briefly, one statement, not that I'm sure if it's critical or not, but some of my experience includes during my architectural school, I actually worked for HABS, the Historic American Building Survey. I measured and drew historic buildings around the country for the Library of Congress. So when I was first introduced to this building on the Post Road there by Michael Chaburri, I thought it was quite interesting, but I also thought it was unfortunate that who's ever owned it over the years has actually not maintained it at all. It's in extremely poor condition, both from a functional standpoint, structural standpoint, and fire safety perspective. As you can tell by the survey, it's experienced since its early Greek revival days, several additions throughout its history, and the building is covered with aluminum siding. And as I mentioned about the structural, I actually went up to one of the flat roofs to measure the height of the building, and I'm glad I'm here to make this presentation. It wasn't the most stable roof I've ever been on in a long time. But that being said, the fabric of that particular area in Madison, consists of a variety of Greek revival and colonial structures, some newer than others. And we have great respect for this particular building. And not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but part of our charge, and I've discussed with the owners, is it has these incredibly large granite stones as part of its foundation, and is to save those stones and reuse those as some sort of paving or other purpose for the project. The other aspect of this building happens to be the fan window in the gable end. And I haven't been up in the attic. My guess is it may not be salvageable, but we will look at that. And if not, you'll see that we've echoed that same gable end window on our elevation. So that in order to sort of recall part of the history of that building and it being on that site. That being said, I'm sure Attorney Sulzbach will address this, but when I first began the project, and you can see on the zoning table, I obviously calculated what the existing coverage was, and And you know that the first floor of this building was utilized as a restaurant, and the second floor actually contains an apartment right now. Not very safe, but it has an apartment. So doing the zoning review for the project, it was our intention to comply and reduce any of the nonconformities that we possibly could, obviously working closely with the owner and their program for this project. Where actually, if one were to discount the covering over the rear stair and the entrance to the elevator in the back, that's actually 128 square feet, that roof, open roof area. The coverage actually satisfies the 25% minimum, though we are requesting, as you can see by the table, a larger, slightly larger 1.6% additional coverage, which that roof is what accounts for it. The
Excuse
new
me.
building,
Wayne, would you like me to pull the table up?
That'll be-
Does everyone
Sure.
have that accessible? I know we
well,
do
that
have,
might be for Attorney Salzbach to.
I'm back.
okay, good.
Oh.
So I can screen share documents and
Okay,
plans if needed. We do have some members of the public participating as well, so I
Okay.
wanted to make sure
Sure.
that everybody's able to view the information.
Thanks, Sharon.
so
Thank you.
I think, why don't we go back and let Attorney Salzbach continue with his presentation? Is that okay?
Sure.
Or do you want me to continue with the building?
If that's okay with the commission, happy to be back. I don't know what happened. I think it's the Guilford Fire Department personally that led to that. But in any event, part of the key to this is again, section 14, for example, of our application, where you see that we're reducing, the current lot coverage from 3,000 square feet and change to 2,229, and reducing floor area from 2,215 to 1,740. This particular application is starting to be a poster child for improved zoning compliance, and that is what we're doing. Equally important, and those are two aspects that Madison pays attention to: lot coverage and square footage of space. But also particularly important here, as maybe Wayne addressed this while I was wherever I was. We've also moved the building back from the street a bit, so that now there's pedestrian space and setback, as opposed to functionally a brick wall right on the sidewalk, which in fact you can see if you want to. In your materials is a photograph of our sign, for which I have to thank Chuck Mandel. And right behind the sign is a wall, and it's not attractive, and it is right practically on top of the sidewalk. So that's another positive change. So that really, all in all, things are far better here. There you go. And so that'll be pushed back a number of feet. The use is functionally the same, restaurant and dwelling space. We do think we need another couple of parking places in terms of being approved, and that shows up again on the application as a piece of our variance. And then those really are the two keys for what we're doing. Everything else is improving things and compliant. And so now we can probably go back to Wayne. And I might add, just it's as you can see from the elevations, it's a project that's very respectful of its location. It probably looks more like it belonged there than the period building that it's replacing. And you'll see that in the details, which are really correct and generous. compared to a lot of what goes on. So it's for people who, who care about that, which when you get to ACA, they will. It's again an improvement over what's there and what you saw in the photo of the sign. So that's where and those changes, those improvements, for the reasons that are set forth in our supplement regarding hardship, will satisfy the legal requirements for that hardship. Again, it's reducing noncompliance actually in a material and meaningful way that makes this something that you can consider and we hope approve. Anything else I can help you with on the legal side for now? We're always here. Wayne?
Okay. So when first presented with the project and the program, as you can see on the survey, there's a 10-foot right-of-way on to the right side of the lot, and the lot the property only being 51 feet wide or so, really only left us about 40 feet for the width of the building. We've kept the building actually from the other side, the left side, where there's an easement granted in order to access parking in the rear. And presently, it's approximately 1.5 feet. We've increased that to 2.5 feet in order to facilitate actually slightly more drainage, because we're proposing to line that area with sort of river rock or crushed stone there. But the new building is, as Attorney Solbach mentioned, 40 feet wide by 52 feet deep, by 50 feet deep, and there's a cutout. The reason the footprint is smaller is because the porch along the front. But what we've done is designed a replacement Greek Revival building that would satisfy today's code, be compliant with the fire safety code, as well as provide proper accessibility. The building scale and proportion is actually slightly larger in terms of we're able to do more within the height that's allowable. The existing height is 23 feet to the main point. Ours is 28. But what that allowed us to do is actually provide a higher ceiling area in the restaurant. And the ceiling in the second floor is conventional, though a portion of the second floor actually has cathedral ceilings in the living areas and the bedrooms, because those are those dormers along the east side to bring in light from above. But the basic Greek Revival form is fairly common, and as you may know, it wasn't uncommon to put a little flat roofed addition off to one side of the Greek Revival structure as well. That side, that little addition there, is actually in many respects our circulation, our core, if you wish to call it, because being 2.5 feet from the property line, we are not allowed any penetrations by the building code. So that became a perfect opportunity to locate the stairs and things of that nature along that side. But being sensitive to the town as well as the locality of this building, we are proposing fenestration along that side, but it's backed up. Those windows that are shown on the west side are actually backed up by fire-rated panels. But you can see, though, I think that's the east side, but the west side.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
It's over here.
And you can see the small dormers up there on the east side here. Those are in the living areas to bring
That's
light
down
in
here.
from above.
Here you go. Sorry.
So those windows along the west side there, they are windows. They will be windows so that the neighbor and the neighborhood doesn't need to look at any blank walls. But they're really ranked out windows, so to speak. You see a railing along the top there, and actually the residents of the apartments up above, there's a stair that leads from the apartment level of the building that is intended to provide access only to the residents to utilize that roof deck because there are some views from up there toward the water, believe it or not. And so we're trying to take advantage of that. We think the apartments are quite generous. Each are one bedroom. One's actually sort of one bedroom with a study, and they're approximately 900. One is 900 square feet, the one toward the front, and the one toward the rear is about 750 square feet. So they're quite generous apartments for this area, with sort of open living and dining area, bedroom and bath. And as I mentioned, the one to the front has a study. The first floor would be the restaurant level, is all open. There's a porch to the front where we can put some small tables and have some seating outdoors in the summertime along the porch. Accessibility, since most people would probably be parking in the back, we put the elevator toward the back so they wouldn't have to come around the front. And the elevator actually has a half stop. It goes to grade. It can then go up to the first floor, up to the second floor, and it also services the basement level as well, where we anticipate the restaurant. There are, I guess, some prospects where the basement will serve as the kitchen and office and storage area for the restaurant portion of the project. The materials, we're proposing clapboards for the siding. We have some traditional, we look at the south elevation, perhaps. We have some traditional Greek revival details such as head molding, pilasters, sort of a return to the gable roof. The typical windows, 8/8 wouldn't be unusual for a Greek revival, and 6/6. The lower story being higher than, as I mentioned earlier, than the upper story. The railing along the porch is traditional. We have a stone foundation. Probably it'll be a concrete foundation with a thin stone veneer. But all of our details are consistent with a Greek revival building. One last thing that we've introduced, and that I should probably mention because I haven't yet. We've worked closely with Erin on this project, and she's given us many good suggestions. We collaborated on some of the aspects of the site plan together, and it's been a very successful relationship. So the last thing is that right away to the right, to the east, probably by the time we get to planning and zoning, we will need potentially a stormwater management system. So if we're going to excavate, we may as well, along that driveway, actually introduce some sort of paver from the street to the back of the building before bituminous paving takes over. So this is meant to add quality and character to the site, along with the plantings that Attorney Salzbach has already referred to in the front with our 6-foot compliance setback. With that, I'll certainly be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question, but it's for Ms. Mannix. In the zoning regulations 6.2.3, there is a table of dimensional standards. Under maximum coverage, we have, this is Boston Post Road east of Wall Street, right? So
Yes.
we have 25%/30%/SEP. I've
Yes.
seen SEP in a number of places in the zoning regs, but no kind of definition for the abbreviation. Can you help me understand that, please?
Absolutely. That was a good question. I was going to bring that up. The increased building height is permitted via special exception permit
That's SEP.
through the
special
Planning and Zoning
exception permit.
Commission. So while that process does not require the demonstration of a zoning hardship. So
So
should the
that's why-
variances be
that-
granted, this evening, the applicant will further request that special exception from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So that's why there's no request for a variance and that.
Exactly.
Cool. Thank you.
Sure.
Now we can go back to Mr. Garrick and Mr. Salzbeck. So if I'm reading this site plan correctly, we are completely compliant on the eastern side in terms of setbacks. We have 10 feet.
Yes,
Right.
And then I don't see any kind of measurement on the plan for the setback on the western side.
2.5 feet.
Right, so I'm to assume that the crushed stone area between the driveway and the building is fully 2.5 feet.
Yes,
Okay.
it is presently 1.5 feet.
And it's presently 1.5 feet, so it gets better.
Yes,
Okay. I want to talk about parking spaces. So we have an anticipated 48 seats and 2 apartments. We're gonna need 4 seats, or I'm sorry, we're gonna need 1 parking space for every 4 seats. Plus we have parking for all of the employees that are going to be in the restaurant. And that's supposed to be 17 spots. And then we have 1 parking space for apartment unit, and there's 2 apartments. So that
yes,
the total of 19 parking spaces that are required. We currently have, the plan has 12.
yes.
Can you comment, because I could not find the dimensions of parking spaces. Also, I don't see any kind of dimensional callouts for the parking spaces on the site plan. Is it somewhere and I just don't see it, or?
No, the regulations require the space to be 9 feet by 18 feet. And all 11 of the spaces there are 9 feet by 18 feet. The exception is the handicap van space, which doesn't exist now.
Right,
A handicap van space is actually 16 feet by 18 feet.
right.
There's 9 feet for the van. I'm sorry, 8 feet for the van and 8 feet that is a hatched area. And obviously it's right near the, right behind the elevator. So making the restaurant very, very accessible.
My assumption is that we're pulling in to the handicap space from the eastern side to the western side, which is why there's no additional parking. It looks to me that as if there would be room for additional parking spaces on the eastern side of the handicap van space. And that is left empty because that's the intended direction for the van to occupy the land.
Residents.
Well, twofold, actually. Actually, that handicap van space, I don't think that a van could make the turn. We do have an easement on the western side, but I don't think the van could make the turn from that side. So
Yeah,
Sure.
a right hand turn from the easement into that space is
Right.
not possible.
Right. And then for the early hours, when restaurants tend to get deliveries, we left that space open there because there's both the elevator and a basement access way from grade in order to facilitate deliveries to the restaurant.
Okay.
So that is basically a delivery space and a means to get to the handicap space comfortably.
Thank you. Aaron, I have another question for you. I'm sorry. I'm asking lots of questions.
Sure.
What is the intent of the parking space. Yeah, what is the intent I mean, yeah, what is the intent of one parking space for 4 seats? Or one parking space per unit? Can you kind of give me a little bit of background on that?
Well, I wasn't here for the for the adoption of the regulations for
In
one
general.
parking space for every 4 seats. I think that's a rough estimate of, who's going to be sitting at a table, or a small 4-top table generating one customer, who travel together. And then there's the additional requirement for the 1 space per employee. Now, so that's been effective in our regulations, and it seems to have worked. This site was non-conforming in the past for parking as well. I believe the existing number of parking spaces is 9, and Wayne, maybe you can correct me.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So it's 9 and they were really, really small.
Well,
What's
the
that?
building extended much further back. If you
It
look
was
at the
9,
survey.
the spaces were small. Parking back there was suboptimal.
Right.
So,
We've actually
I've eaten
increased the setback for the rear yard. That's how we were able to gain 3 more parking spaces, because the building is smaller than the original building there.
and to answer your question, Jason, about the 1 parking space per dwelling, this is actually an update that occurred in the legislative session in July of 2021 as part of Public Act 2129, which many of you are familiar, effectively amended the zoning statutes in quite a number of areas. Section 8-2 was amended to indicate that the zoning regulation shall not require more than 1 parking space for each studio or 1-bedroom dwelling unit, or more than 2 parking spaces for each dwelling unit with 2 or more bedrooms. And the caveat was that municipalities had the opportunity to opt out of that legislative language should they feel that was not in harmony with their local regulations or the desires of the municipality. It was a one chance opt out by January 1st, 2023. And Madison has not opted out of this provision. So even though our local regulation specified in section 8.1.1 requires 2 spaces per dwelling unit, the statute carries and only requires the 1 parking space. So essentially, where there was 1 unit up on the 2nd floor before that required 2 parking spaces in our former statutes, the 2 dwellings at this point have the same parking equivalent in current regulations.
Thank you. I
Sure.
have one more.
I'm in the hot seat.
One more question. Sorry, not for you, not for you.
He's our
Oh, for you.
technician.
For Mr. Garrett. I've had a long day at work, so my apologies if I seem a little bit scattered here. Can you walk me through the calculation of the maximum floor area? I mean, the 1,740 seems, I mean, it doesn't make sense. If you tell me I got 2 900 square foot apartments up.
No, I don't think they're no, well, I believe one is approximately 9. The other one may be around 650.
Okay, so that would be 1,550.
Bear with me 1 second.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it says 1,740 on the card.
No, but then there's the circulation space, the stair and the hallways.
So does the kitchen space not calculate into it? It's only the restaurant floor, the 1st floor and the 2nd floor?
Yeah, let me just get out my larger set of drawings here, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Jason, in section 2.8, it also, excuse me, that's residential. I wanted to get you the definition of floor area as well, so that
Okay.
you had
I mean,
that.
I have a number of questions. So I was part of the granting of a variance for another property that was very close to here, and I have a couple questions that stem from that. So when we can finish with this, that would be pretty awesome. Sorry, guys, I'm asking a lot of questions here.
The
your
question is,
job.
what counts to floor area? What,
Yeah,
The restaurant, the first floor is 30, I believe 38 and change by 45, not including the porch.
okay.
The porch we counted as toward coverage.
So that's 1350, right?
Let me just go back one more time to my larger set here. Sorry, it's not near my laptop.
That's okay. Take your time. Aaron, are the rules for calculating floor area the same in the commercial districts as they are in residential?
floor area, the definition of floor area refers you back to section 2.8, which is the table where it goes through in the main building. The center column in that table is whether or not something counts to floor area. So the floor area of a cellar, no. Floor area of a basement, yes.
But what about the floor area of a basement counts, right?
Yes, unless it's included in
Well, the basement doesn't go
main
under the porch.
coverage. So it's basically, let's see, surface area.
The building is 39 by 45, but then which would be 1755. But you'll see in the back, there's an indentation of about 15 square feet. So that's what brings it to the 1740.
Right, but floor area and building coverage are two different things, correct?
Right, that's the floor area.
That's,
The floor area would be
Yeah.
the sum of the area of the 3 floors.
yeah, you gotta add them up.
Building coverage is just the planned footprint of the building. That's what I understand.
Well, if you include the building coverage, including the porches,
Yeah, except for,
yeah, well, if you
except for,
take the-
except for row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of your drawing, maximum floor area doesn't say building coverage. And the maximum floor area is saying 1,740 square feet. For 3 floors.
our building coverage is 26.6%. That would be 2,230 square feet. I'm not sure I follow your question, so my apologies.
My question is that it says maximum floor area is 1,740 square feet,
Which
Right.
is less than your footprint.
which is less than the footprint.
So
Right,
the total,
well, that's
total,
the floor area of the first floor, 1,740 square feet.
but that's only one floor. You have to add the different floors, don't you?
Pardon?
Add the second floor.
You have to add the multiple floors and say,
Oh,
okay,
okay.
3 times 1740 is
Oh, there's not
5220,
3,
right?
well, you can include the basement?
I don't know
Is
that,
the basement going to be an occupied space? According to
It's-
your.
if it's
according
gonna be
to
the
That's
kitchen.
where the kitchen's gonna be.
it's gonna be
Yeah,
the
I
kitchen.
mean, the
that-
kitchen's
then-
gonna be there or office space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
right.
this is gonna lead into another one of my questions. So we can say that there's a misprint or a typographical error on the drawing that was submitted in terms of floor area.
let me just check the basement. 1 second, please.
But I agree with you, Jason. Let's get it right. And if we need to just make annotate the changes, we can do that, but let's get it right.
I agree. It sounds like you count the 3 floors, right, Dennis?
Well, I think Aaron would have to weigh in on that, but that's because it's occupied for office and kitchen.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Hey, hey.
intended to be occupied. There's a half bath down there.
Yeah, oh, no, there's supposed to be, so the total floor of the area of the basement,
Mhm.
first floor and the second floor would be 5,470 square feet.
Is there a reason that we haven't applied for a variance for that?
Is the 3,000 correct, Wayne?
Well, I think that was just the first,
What
the
you
first
have
2
here?
floors possibly.
I have to look.
Of the existing building, just the first floor.
Yeah, I wrote 17 of the existing building. Oh, I'm not sure about that number
Knocking
for
that
the
down.
existing building. I actually have the sheet right here. Let me look. Yeah, the existing building is 2215 plus 840. So that would be 3,055. 30, we have 35. But the existing first floor and finished upper story, that this is according to the assessor's card or the vision appraisal card.
I take it the existing basement is just storage and so on.
I think so. I've never been down there, so I can't vouch for
I don't blame you.
that.
So
I don't know
Mr.
how much, most of it's crawl space. A great deal of it is crawl space because of the
I have-
additions.
So now we've found that. Are we gonna need to file or modify the application to request a variance for floor for square footage?
Could you read the definition of the floor area again, please?
Yes. Hold on 1 second. I'm reading from a digital. Floor area is the area of a floor or a story in a building measured to the outside of the exterior walls identified in section 2.8 as counts to floor area. So it defers you back to section 2.8. Which is the table. In the main building. So the footprint, clearly the floor of all floors on a building of the lot measured to the outside surface of the exterior walls, except for the areas listed, specified below. A basement would be counted unless it is included in, as the lowest level, in your footprint calculation. So if it's a floor area, yes, my understanding of section 2.8 is that, yes, it would count towards floor area. Floor area of an attic, which is not a half story or a full story, does not count, but this is a full story second floor.
Right.
So my understanding would be that it would be the 3 floors counting towards floor area. And then Wayne, then we would jump to section 6, right, for what our calculation for floor area, our maximum floor area can be. Just get through this.
Is that table?
So, let's see
The
here.
bulk standards table?
Right.
There's a maximum first floor on Wall Street. We have multiple sections here joined together, so hold on, I don't want to give you the wrong information.
Oh, come on.
I'm not seeing the maximum of 3,000. Wayne, where did you find that? I see a
So that's
maximum.
I, I think that's 6.2.3 I.
But that's a maximum first floor
Right,
interior
right.
building area of any structure on a lot fronting on Wall Street shall be
Right.
3,000 square feet. We're not
That's what
fronting on
that,
Wall
that's what that
Street.
line refers to. For the maximum first floor area, 3,000 square feet. That's why I put down 1740 for the first floor. It's not the maximum floor. I didn't, that line is referring to the maximum first floor area.
But I'm reading that as only a requirement on lots fronting on Wall Street, which you are not.
Yeah.
No, but somehow when we were
So
going
it looks
through
like the
this,
first floor is 20,000 square feet with it. So J is the maximum first floor interior building area of any structure on a lot fronting on Boston Post Road, Durham Road, Railroad Avenue, or Bradley shall be 20,000 square feet and the maximum width shall be 80 feet. This shall
So
not.
they comply with that requirement.
So it
It's
complies.
not noted properly
Okay.
on this particular zoning
I'm-
chart. However, it doesn't affect this evening's variance requests.
That's correct.
And I don't believe we're triggering any additional variance requests
Awesome.
that would need to continue, and re-advertise that
Okay.
request.
So I'm going to move on to my other two questions rather quickly. I believe that they're pretty open and shut. So the other building that we approve variances for on Boston Post Road needed HVAC. Where on this site plan do we anticipate the HVAC? Because we have two residences and a restaurant that are going to need HVAC. It's also going to need hood vents and exhaust from the kitchen in the basement. I don't see any kind of indication on the building for those, and I know that the vents will probably just get stuck to the side of the building or on at the back.
no. Well, first of all, in terms of HVAC, we use variable flow refrigerant units for all our projects now. You're going to tell me you're a mechanical engineer in 1 second.
I mean, I am.
Oh, okay, I can tell. But
Can you tell by my questioning and how I look at drawings?
I'll reserve comment on that if you don't mind. But no, you're very thorough. So I knew you were an engineer. But so VFR, and we'll probably put those units up on the flat roof portion toward the rear of the roof. Okay, so you don't have to worry about neighbors and noise very much. They'll be concealed by the railing that we have going around the flat roof. In terms of the kitchen, we haven't really done a kitchen layout yet, but if you would like to make it a contingency, I guess, or a comment, I will certainly find a chase to bring that up through the building, as opposed to, it's not going to be on the side of the building. It would be inconsistent with the work that we do for that to be an exposed exhaust fan on the side. Besides, it has to go up through the building anyway, as you know, above. So my guess is that we'll probably find if the kitchen, if you're looking at the basement plan, kitchen will probably be more toward the Boston Post Road, and we'll find a space in the corner there to bring up the vent.
I mean, I'm not gonna make a contingent. I
Yeah,
would hate to go through and approve variances, only to have more variances come through when we have to put the condensers outside.
no, the
So-
condensers won't be on the ground. Very, very rarely do I put them on the ground any longer. And we'll develop a chase for the exhaust hood.
You said the condensers are gonna go on the basically what the roof deck,
Yes,
and that's condensers for the restaurant space, the dining room space, and the two.
right.
Okay.
Yes. As of now, that would be my plan. Yes.
I have no further questions. Thank you all for entertaining me.
You had some of my questions there too, Jason. Rich, you have a question?
Was
I know you
there,
had- you had one you brought up.
yeah, thanks. Was there some mention that something still had to go through zoning after this board? I thought I heard a mention about that.
Sure. So the zoning board of appeals is the first step in this design and permitting process, as if the setback variances and the parking variances are granted, then the applicant will proceed with full engineered drawings to then submit a special exception application to the Planning and Zoning Commission. The use itself is a special exception use. It's in a special exception zone. And then the additional building height can be granted by the Planning and Zoning Commission also via a separate special permit, special exception application. So this is just the first step.
I have a question. How do you see the parking overflow? In other words, if the restaurant is full and you only allow for 12 spaces back there, and when I went back there the other day, you have parking spaces behind the building on the right and parking spaces behind the building on the left. Now, I would think that people, if they can't find spaces behind the restaurant, that they might go over into the parking spaces on the other buildings. So that would be a concern, and I don't know if that's happened in the past.
Michael, can you?
Well, we don't really know what was going on. It's now been so long that Elizabeth has been not operating. But it's as likely that they would park across the street on the Esplanade there, where they do for many other commercial uses along the Boston Post Road in that area. And in fact, that would put them coming in the front anyway. So again, there's no history with Elizabeth of conflict. And again, there are other appropriate public places for what ought to be a small overflow to go if we're so fortunate as to be that busy.
I would disagree. I would think, knowing how people park, if they drive into the back and see all the parking spaces full, I think there are natural, that they're going to naturally go to an available parking space back there, which does not belong to the restaurant.
But if the spaces are marked, I think they'd be, most people will respect a well-marked sign that says reserved for resident or whatever.
I mean, it's as much a matter of marking as anything else, and that's certainly my practical experience, my office, besides here in Guilford, is in New Haven, in an area where parking is at a premium. And people do, particularly in the case of our building, respect the parking signs and parking directions. I mean, you've got to give some credit to the people that live and visit our towns, I think.
There's certainly nothing scientific about my experience, but I'm fortunate enough, I own 3 commercial buildings in New Haven, one of which my office is in. I had over 60 tenants and 3 parking lots, and they're all marked, reserved for the tenants. We do have a few visitor spaces at one of the lots, but after owning them for 25 years, people respect the reserved spaces, and I think if the neighbor had, we could help them out, I'm sure, reserve signs on their spaces, then people like Attorney Sulzbach said, I think people respect it. I very, very rarely ever have an issue with anybody parking in the lots that's not authorized to park. Again, nothing scientific about that, just my experience. And we feel there's plenty of parking along the street as people park for the other restaurants in the area as well.
Mr. Chair, if there are, I do have members of the public with their hands raised as well, if you'd like to allow for public comment as well. If the
Before we go on, Rich, I think we did have a question that we had encountered before. I perhaps correct me on this, but do we not have a potential conflict here with what the heck was it? Connecticut General Statutes Public Act 17-39, Section 2. A property owner can demolish a non-conforming structure and replace it as long as she places it where it was and keeps the non-conformity. Once demolished, if in effect, it becomes abandoned. So then you don't get those other items grandfathered in, as it were. Now, here we have a situation where we have this, which says you can't inherit grandfathering that has been wiped out by virtue of destroying the building, versus the other thing that says, yes, but we're still getting lesser variance or non-compliance rather than we had before. So Aaron, I don't know if you would like to comment on that. I'm not sure I know how that works in a situation like this.
I would actually let Attorney Sulzbach speak to the legal aspects related to this as far as
Yeah, but he does represent an interest in the thing. So I just wondered if you had something from a disinterested side. But yes, let's let Attorney Sulzbach address it.
Well, in fact, I was going to circle back to this, and that is that we could leave it like it is in all of those respects, and you've seen it happen in town. It's not the best, and the changes that improvements that we're making are material. And compared, for example, to a parking place or two, which we don't discount, but we're here for the variances for those. But if you look at the improvements on the table, that's exactly why the cases say that works for hardship. It's a good reason to grant a variance because it is in fact an improvement. We can't make it perfect. We don't have to, and we probably wouldn't as a business matter. But we're doing the very, very best we can. And what we can is meaningful. And it's producing a building, frankly, that in terms of this neighborhood, at least in the opinion of many, is consistent with it and the neighborhood at its best. And if you look closely at the details for the Greek Revival building, that's what you see in some of the best of Madison's period architecture. I mean, it's not a Disneyland, it's not a parody. It's really a very careful and respectful plan to be consistent with.
I understand
what
that,
is
but frankly, the how nice it looks is not part of that consideration for judging
No, I agree.
those two laws. Okay, so I do agree with you as far as it's a significant improvement in looks, but I'd like to know what the law says. I don't want us to get into some
What-
lawsuit later on because somebody objected to our decision or something. So
What
Um,
statute are you citing, Dennis?
So, and I confess I got this via email. I have not looked it up myself. Connecticut General Statutes, Public Act 17-39, Section 2.
So this is a public act and section what?
2017.
Yeah,
Section 2.
1739, Section 2. And I think Bill sent that to me at one time. So,
I don't know that public act off the top of my head.
yeah,
Unless it's
I
been
don't either.
since incorporated into the statutes, the zoning statutes. I have to,
Yeah,
But the cases since then have been very clear that
Case law.
where
yeah,
you are reducing nonconformities they don't even say it in a meaningful and material way, but reducing nonconformities, these are significant reductions. That where you're doing that, then the board can determine whether that justifies a variance, as opposed to leaving it the way it is, which is what would happen, which is far more non-conforming. And I mean, a lot of this is just practically driven by business,
mhm.
as you know. So when we came thinking we were doing an awfully good thing for the town and the neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
And which you have the authority to grant, by the way. I mean, this isn't a close call on that end of it by any means. I mean, you're well within what the statutes would, or the cases would support by granting this.
Mhm.
The way I interpret it is that if you tear down the building and start new, you've abandoned all of the nonconformities. So in other words, if you were building in the same footprint, well, then you can claim a reduction in nonconformities. But when you're putting up a new building, you're starting from scratch. So you really can't claim a reduction in nonconformities. And I think that's what this statute was saying.
But the cases since then recognize quite clearly that we haven't torn this down. It's here. We can leave it
Yes.
just like it is. And so what the case law says is that where you are demolishing and creating something more, reducing nonconformities, that in those circumstances, the Zoning Board of Appeals has the authority to grant a variance, and that's an appropriate and it's a legal thing to do.
Is there a case law that states that?
Yes, absolutely. Some of that we cited here, and there's in our supplement regarding hardship, which is part of our application. You can see the Meyer-Williamson versus Stanford case. And there's a whole long line of these that came out during that period, clarifying that. And as a general rule, the cases were not all that friendly to variance granting, but this is very clear.
I don't know, because this statute is General Statutes Public Act 1739, which we're talking about. I just wonder when that was.
That's 2000 and you said it's 17 dash?
Yeah, 17.
Well, that's the year, that's
39.
2017. So there have been case law updates since that
Okay, all right.
adoption. That's
The-
what Attorney Sulzbach was trying to explain from that.
The case
that time.
the case we cited for you is a 2019 case.
Okay,
It makes sense, actually.
Aaron, is this something that we need to have our lawyer look at, the board's lawyer?
To review the case law, I think this is the determination of the board, whether or not you're in agreement with that citing of that case law and the reduction of the nonconformity. Our land use attorney wouldn't give an opinion, just I think if you had a specific question, but they wouldn't be deciding, making the decision on your behalf. no.
Okay.
Not in this case, but
No.
as a general interpretation of the law. Yeah.
Well, we've given you a quote as part of that, as part of our application.
Yeah, in the hardship section. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think that responds to your concern about that statute. I'm acquainted with your lawyers and they read these same cases, and I'm comfortable with what we're doing here and that they would read it the same way we do.
in that case in 2019, which you are referring to, did they actually demolish the building and start with another building?
In fact, well, what they did was it's part of their, I think it was a whole new building, as a matter of fact, but the key to that is that they reduced the nonconformity. The only way to reduce it is to demolish it, which in fact is what we're doing here.
And it says reduction of a non-conforming use to a less offensive prohibited use may constitute an independent ground for the granting of a variance. So, and that was 2 years after the law came out, so. Okay.
And if it's any comfort, your very zoning board of appeals has granted a number of variances over the last few years for exactly this reason and on the same basis.
So Dennis, I think what Attorney Sulzbach is alluding to, not in reference to what we did, but in reference to Mayor Whitman, and there's a number of other cases. I don't have my handy dandy case law notebook here in front of me, but prior to this string of cases in the late 2010s, the only legal grounds to grant a variance was due to a hardship that was unique to the land itself or to the zoned property itself. with these cases, and there's 5 or 6 of them that are cited, they have been cited in front of this board, and also that were discussed in that training that we take, that's put on by, what's it called, the liberal arts school.
Yeah.
Bar
So,
Association.
Connecticut.
yeah,
Bar.
the Connecticut Bar Association. They
Yeah, whatever
talk
that is.
about, they talk about that prior to these cases, the only acceptable reason for a variance was a legal hardship.
Mhm.
That with the decisions in these cases that brought another acceptable use, or acceptable reason for granting a variance is in a reduction of nonconformities. Then there was a question of, well, when you abandon the use and you abandon all your previous existing nonconformities, right? By knocking down the building. And there was a case, and I think this is what Meyer Whitman was, the one that Attorney Salzbeck quoted in his application, was that they didn't, just by knocking down the building doesn't mean that they abandoned the use of the building, that they abandoned the use of the property. So because that property was non-conforming previously because of the use, right? Just because they knocked it down to rebuild the different building didn't abandon that existing use, and that has been extended to existing variances. I think a couple of years ago, we had a really big question, and we brought in town council, and we had a special meeting, and we went over this, and since then, that has changed, I believe, to, where when you demolish the building, you can claim this reduction of non-conforming uses per case law. I don't have, like I said, I don't have
I don't have
what
reference.
that book is. I think that's the case. I'm not an attorney. But
An engineer.
I am.
That's better.
Good one.
Unfortunately, I am. But I think that's what's being cited here. I would say that I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't try to shoot the legal hardship for this lot not being a completely non-conforming lot anyway. But that's not what was presented to us. This was the route that was taken. So.
Okay. All right. Ned, if you want to open it up to the floor, to the guests, I don't have any further questions. Anybody else?
Aaron? Anyone else from the board? Aaron, can you ask anybody out there to,
From the
Raise-
public?
from public?
Yes.
Unmute and ask the question or whatever.
Yes, I have Marius Marinescu. Marius, if you could identify yourself for the record.
Yeah, hi. I'm the dentist next door to the east. And I was listening to your conversation, and I looked at the plans and everything looks real good, but the only issue that I've encountered over the years, and I can attest this firsthand, the parking is an issue. Elizabeth, Betsy and I, we had an agreement, and we were able to mitigate that in the sense that, we were able to somehow mitigate that issue. But typically, people park all over the place. They're not really as careful or as interested in what's assigned or what's not assigned. Particularly the driveway, the really narrow driveway between our building and her building, tends to be kind of dangerous when people start walking on that very narrow driveway. So if there is not enough parking, people going in and out might cause an issue. I mean, the cars going in and out is what I'm saying. Am I explaining it the right way? I'm not sure.
I think you
Yeah.
are.
There
Yeah.
definitely is a problem with parking up there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I've seen mostly people will respect resident signs, but you're right. It gets really crowded, they'll just say the hell with it and park anywhere. That's true.
Yeah, that's if I may, yeah, and the only way we could figure that one out is when I would have, we would have some of Betsy's workers parked there, so the staff would have room to park. The only thing was that, well, the good thing was that our schedules kind of stagger. So I work mostly from early in the morning until, and then the restaurant would start. So that worked out okay. Not great, but okay. And we worked it out, and that was fine. And she only was there basically Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, when I try not to be. But I mean, once you get busy, things are not as easy to handle, and it's hard to go out and get the customers out of the restaurant so our patrons can park. So I guess that's my 2 cents.
Well, there's another restaurant up there too, so they're vying for parking spaces, and that I forget the name of the little street that runs parallel to Route 1 there is.
Everett's Lane. Everett's Lane.
Is that Everett's Lane?
Or you talk about the one on the other side of the street?
On the other, Berenbaum, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking Everett's is parallel, but it's behind this. Okay, you're saying across the street from the front door.
Across the street from the front door.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I forget what that's called.
And there's also there's another development underway right now, or if there's litigation on the other corner.
Mhm.
So that's my only complaint, or my only observation
Yeah,
in terms of this. Otherwise, the application, I feel, has been done very well. And, I think, well, is there anybody else, Aaron, that would like to address the board?
I don't see anyone with their hands raised, but if anyone else, I do have 2 more who just raised their hands. Alicia Mirando, if you could identify yourself for the record.
Yes, hi, I'm Alicia Mirando. I'm the neighbor on the west side, I believe.
And what's the address?
883 Boston Post Road.
Thank you.
So I want to quick address that, and also just agree with Anthony Marinesco that, the parking is an issue. We've had parking issues in the past. And I do agree with the fact that when it's a resident parking, people respect that and it's not an issue. But when they do come back and they're going to look for the first empty spot, and the signs just, in my experience, have created a lot of agitation, and it's unwelcoming, and it will cause people, if it's not convenient for them, they'll go elsewhere. And most of us, we try to park on Birnbaum Lane and I know also other restaurants, their employees park there so we can have space for our customers. The concerns I have would also be if there was, again, a restaurant there, where would their dumpsters go for trash removal? And then how to keep tenants and customers safe if this does go through during the whole process.
So some of those questions I think are Planning and Zoning Commission questions.
Okay.
As part of the site plan and safety aspect, unless that's something that's easily addressed by the applicant. Some of that detail would be.
I can address the trash. On our site plan, we have a proposed enclosed trash area. It's actually located toward the rear of the property, quite deliberately, so that people weren't walking by trash when they were going into the restaurant. Only makes sense.
It-
And it's easily accessible by a vehicle. So if you have right there on the site plan,
Under the tree. Yeah.
we have a trash enclosure.
That's what that is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Gorgeous tree there, by the way. So-
Yes, it is. Yep, we're leaving it alone.
We have one more member in attendance, Ron Clark, who would like to speak as well. Ron, if you could identify yourself for the record.
Good evening, Commission members, Aaron and everyone. Ron Clark, 6 Everett's Lane, and a butter. I live directly abutting this property on the north side. In fact, I overlook the parking lot from our 2 bedrooms. And I didn't come in tonight in order to provide any testimony. But I think you're talking to a parking history expert on this property because I've observed it and been involved with it for, we've lived here almost 19 years. And parking has been, so I'll start with that. I had a couple of questions that may, with the chairman's permission, bleed over
Sure.
into planning and zoning part of it. But first, parking has been, it's like the Hatfields and McCoys with these 3 properties. Cars have been towed. There have been just all kinds of problems. Signs, Home Depot buckets filled with cement, Elizabeth's parking only, this one parking only. As a resident of town and someone who knows that attracted people from out of town to eat there, I was embarrassed to see what was posted back there. It was a mess. And quite frankly, the only solution, the best solution, is a shared easement between the 3 property owners where they can park on the other's property and work cooperatively to help solve this problem. But the way it was before, and I think the dentist office example is perfect. It doesn't work. It won't work. People will park on Birnbaum Lane, but we forget that the General's Residence complex has just come into existence. That has limited parking. People visiting there for parties or social events on the weekends, they're going to be looking at Birnbaum Lane, the ledges. I think this is something that should be taken very seriously. I don't know whether you consider that testimony, but it certainly is firsthand experience is what goes on back there. One of my questions was answered about the trash, and that's a concern because that's outside our bedroom window. As Attorney Selsbeck said, moving it to the rear of the property so it doesn't bother people isn't necessarily true. So when that gets to the planning and zoning stage, that's certainly something I to pursue. But the other question I had to do with the restaurant itself. How many seats do you contemplate, and how many? What was the capacity? Do you have any idea when Elizabeth's was open?
This proposal includes 48 seats, and that was based upon the building code. And I personally don't know how many seats were in Elizabeth, but maybe Attorney Selsbach does, but I do not. But I know that we are proposing, according to the zoning chart, a maximum of 48 seats.
Understood. I think I believe Elizabeth's was somewhat lower than that. More importantly, Elizabeth's was very limited hours of operation, closed very early at night, didn't open till noon. And the increase in activity and so on is again a concern, but more for planning and zoning. The one thing that, as far as the variance is concerned, I think that it's a very nice looking building, certainly better than what's there now. But very little attention was paid to the north elevation, which is one that I'm concerned with because I will look out of our bedroom windows and see it. Every time when I glance out, is it possible to call that back up on the screen? Just to take a little more detailed look?
Yes. 1 second.
And I did hear something mentioned about a porch.
Yes.
That's the south side.
No, this is the, no, in the rear too. No, on the north elevation to the
Oh,
extreme
this?
right. Yeah, there's a covered porch. That's the entry for the residential unit.
Okay,
And the door to its left, down slightly lower, is the half-level elevator entrance. There's
Okay.
a standing seam metal roof on this structure in order to provide protection from the elements. Actually, the transom window up above the gabled roof of the porch entry, that's in the hallway up above. There's the decorative railing for the roof deck up above. You won't see any air conditioning condensing units.
Yeah.
We talked about earlier. The two windows, the round window is actually in a bathroom in that particular unit, and the two windows there are in the bedroom.
mhm,
Two windows below are in the restrooms for the restaurant
okay.
down below.
And what are those white blocks on the ground?
The Bilko.
Oh, that's a access
Bilko
way to the
door.
basement, yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
But as I mentioned, stone foundation, clapboards, pilasters, standing seam.
Right. Okay, well, I'm glad to get a second look at that. Again, it was kind of brief, and I understand why when the building was reviewed, so.
You know, we've also have, if you look at the site plan too, Mr. Clark, you'll also see that we've introduced a tree, the planting area next to the Bilko area there.
Mhm,
So to add some greenery and the paving for the area back there, the walkway from the driveway to the door is also, it will be some sort of material, some sort of paving stones other than bituminous. So
Right.
we're actually, I think, upgrading. I don't know if it's totally appropriate, but we are increasing the parking by 33% from 9 to 12 by reducing the building coverage of the project. So that could help. I realize 3 spaces isn't enormous, but it's certainly an
No, it's
increase,
not.
but it's a help. But also the idea, whoever ends up renting this restaurant, I've certainly been involved with such agreements, and I'm sure Attorney Solzback has been involved with many, but joint parking agreements aren't unusual. The neighbors seem very cooperative, so I think that in the interests of the town and our clients, that I think we've addressed the issues in terms of upgrading the entire area and with this project. It
That's,
may not be perfect, but
that's encouraging. However, I'd say just 2 things. Number one, this would not be anything that the restaurant owner would negotiate. This would be the 3 property owners cross-easing each other.
right, yeah, for the
Which
property, correct.
Was a vital and important component. I know we're a block or so away in the Bradley Road Vision Study to encourage and where possible, mandate shared easement parking, because the most effective use of parking spaces is shared. And I think you can remember the parking war up on Bradley and Wall had with the hairdresser next door, and the signs and so forth. It's the same thing here, perhaps worse. And I'd hate to see that occur again. But my other comments, and I just wanted to go on the record as saying that the 3 Everts Lane is across the driveway from ours, and they also overlook you know, have the same problems we do. They happen to be away on vacation and couldn't be with us tonight. But to give you one idea, just one little anecdote, we had two issues with that building where they were encouraging their employees to come park in the parking spaces within the Muse outside our unit, our guest spaces, to go to work because there's a gate between the two properties with the right of way. So when I said there were problems, I meant there were problems. And that's all I have.
Thanks,
So
Ron.
Thank you.
Information and I hope the information is somewhat helpful.
Mr. Chair, can I make a motion that we take a 5-minute break?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. We gotta move on this stuff.
okay, but we're on a break right now.
Yeah.
Recommend muting.
Yeah. 8:34, I'll be back at 8:39.
We ready to begin again, Ned?
I think so.
8:39, is that what we said?
Need to make sure Jason's back. There he is. All right.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, Alicia Miranda has her hand raised again for an additional question or comment. Are you? Okay. Will you entertain that? Yes, I can't hear you.
Unmute.
There you go.
Yes, that's okay.
Okay.
I thought I did.
Alicia,
Yes, it's a quick question. It might not be able to be answered, but I was just curious, with the venting system for the kitchen, if there's a restaurant there, what would the noise level be? Just concerned for the tenants that we have above our business.
Wayne,
I'm not a mechanical engineer, so, but I do know from past experience that there are decibel requirements in terms of the fan. So whatever the code requires, we would meet or be less than whatever the code requirement is. So,
okay.
just looking at the plan, again, it's difficult to commit, but probably, I apologize to Jason, but looking at the plan, it almost looks like the chase that we would provide would be more toward the middle of the building and closer to that area, toward the middle of the building. So that should help in any mitigation as well.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from the public or comments? Like to take a motion?
Hold on, I have one more question in open session for Aaron.
Okay, thank you.
Is it required that businesses have the town zoning requirements require that a restaurant have parking, period, end of story? Like dedicated parking?
there's a zoning, the zoning regulations have a minimum parking requirement.
Okay.
Yes, which is what the
But
applicant.
yeah, so if we don't grant the variance for the minimum parking requirement, it seems to me that it's impossible to meet that requirement. Right?
The number of seats and number of employees would have to be reduced, or the
Okay.
residential component, the parking calculation in general would have to be reduced
We'd
to,
have to sharpen their pencils.
it would have to fall within 12 parking spaces that are provided.
Thank you.
Did I respond to that? If we, for those of you who've dealt with restaurants, there's a certain number of seats that you need to have to make a viable restaurant. Otherwise, it will fail, and in fact, no one with any sense will start one. And that's kind of where we are here. But nonetheless, we could operate it like it was. We could do the whole thing, including the larger footprint and the setback along the post road and all of that. And in order to make it worth, from a business point of view, to make these improvements that we are, to shrink the size of the building, and do all of that, we need to be able to have a viable restaurant. And that requires that many seats. And it's really, it's not our not that anybody's being greedy or anything else, it's pretty mechanical for what it takes to run a viable restaurant. So that I just give you that as, now a lot of this is going to come back to planning and zoning anyway, because they're going to be looking at their aspects of this. And a lot of what we talked about tonight is really going to come up there. And here, to me anyway, the real question is whether the better thing is to reduce the footprint and from a pure zoning point of view, and reduce the nonconformities that we are in return for keeping the ones that we are, the little ones that we are keeping, and the parking places. And that's a judgment you can make. And we think that all things in balance, it's a pretty clear call that this is a project meriting that approval, and that will improve the town.
How many staff members do they anticipate at the restaurant?
Wayne just disappeared. He's muted.
No, I'm here. I mute myself just in case. The zoning chart, we're proposing there would be 5 staff members.
5, okay.
Okay. At any one time.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else with any questions? Then I'd like to make a motion that we go into deliberations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. Jason, you had the most questions, so what are your thoughts?
I'm in favor of granting both. I'm in favor of granting the first one. It based on what Attorney Salzbeck provided, and that being relevant case law, that does present us with a legal ground to approve the variances. I think. So had they come at it, and I think I mentioned this in the open session, had they come at it and said, well, the lot size is supposed to be 20,000 square feet. This lot size is less than half of that size. For us to put any kind of structure on here, to meet the intent of the setbacks, which are, side yard setbacks are 10 feet. Minimum, but a total of 30 foot. So to meet the 10-foot minimum on the one side, that would mean that they need a 20-foot setback on the other side. The frontage of the property is just over half of what's allowed, or half of what's required for the downtown village district D. I would say that this is an oddly, that this is an extremely small parcel, and that it's not, going to be feasible to put up a new structure that is not a hazard and an eyesore to the town as it currently stands. They could have said we need to go in here and rebuild it, rebuild it on the exact foundation that it is, and we're gonna keep everything as is, and we're going to keep our 9 parking spots and our 1.5 foot of setback on the western side and 9.6 feet of setback on the eastern side, and take up half a parking lot and stuff like that. They could have done that, but instead we have what appears to be a pretty thoughtful and addition improvement on what's there. As far as the parking is concerned, like, parking is an issue downtown, period, end of story, everywhere. I just mapped it out on Google Maps. It's a 6-minute walk from the lot behind the post office and behind the movie theater, you know, the public lot, to that building. When I go out to eat in other towns, you know, sometimes I have to walk because there's not public parking available, or you know, if you're in Chester, you got to park, you know, over the hill and through the woods to access their restaurants, or if you're in Guilford, sometimes you're stuck on the other side of the green because the public lots are not there. You know, I think that's we live in an old town. There's not a lot of land, and the land values are pretty high. You know, a public street parking is going to be an issue.
Available.
Street parking is an issue everywhere, right? In every downtown on, you know, on the shoreline, street parking is an issue. And people work it out. The owners, right? So these guys are not the owners of the restaurant. We're not sitting here with restaurateurs presenting to us. You know, this is, you know, with somebody's dream of opening a restaurant and they found this great space and they're going to redo this building, right? This is a development company that is building a restaurant without a tenant. And they're going to put 2 apartments on top of it as well. So, you know, the onus is going to be on not only the people that are occupying the space, the eventual lessees of the property, but of the ownership group to figure out, you know, the shared parking issues. You know, as it stands, right? If they were just to rebuild the structure and in place and not have to stand in front of us at all and sit here for, you know, 2 hours on a Tuesday to listen to us talk, right, there would still be a parking issue. So I'm in favor of granting the variance for the side yard setbacks, you know, based on the logic that's presented to us. I would also wouldn't have taken a far push to convince me that, you know, the 8,300 square foot lot in a, you know, 20,000 square foot district, you know, presents a very unique condition for granting of all of these. I mean, if we think about it, if this was a 20,000 square foot lot with 100, you know, linear feet of frontage along Boston Post Road, you know, we wouldn't be having these conversations, right? You know, unfortunately, that's not the path that was taken, but here we are. You know, I think that I can explain away the parking. I mean, it's so you got 5 employees, and out of the 12 spots, 7 of them are taken up by employees and tenants, right? So you're literally leaving 5 spots for 48 guests to park. You know, it's not going to be, it's nothing. I mean, if you're really putting 4 parking spots or 1 parking spot per 4-top, right? I mean, you need 12 parking spots just for those 4-tops. And when you go out to dinner with 4 people, do you often take 1 car for 4 people? No, you're meeting people there, right? So parking would be an issue. Parking would be an issue even if we met the minimums, or even if they met the minimums. So like I said, based on the arguments that have been presented, you know, I have been convinced that this is the best option for the town. And or not the best option, it's a good option for the town. And I'm also convinced that the 2 variances should be granted.
Okay, thanks. Rich?
Yeah, I'm in favor, Ned. I don't really have anything substantial to add to what Jason said. I think it's a great design in harmony with the existing, you know, zoning down there at that area, and they are reducing some nonconformities. So I'd be in favor for both.
Dennis?
I would like to add to what Jason said, that he said that they could have come in and said, we would like to reduce conformances with this thing. It's not just that they could have done it, but if we reject this, that's going to be their only option, is to come in and build on the same footprint. That or affordable housing, or perhaps, I don't know, you know, what would happen there, but But, it's a compatible usage, even though there are some non-compliances, but it's certainly compatible with the neighborhood. And, Ron Clark it has a point that's, he's got the back end of the business there, but that, that's the nature of buying a place that backs up to the back of a business. And I think that we have as Jason said, it's not that this is a unique situation. This is a very common situation all along the shoreline and all cities everywhere, the parking. And people are gonna have to do the same thing they do when they want to go to Cafe Alegre or something. Of course, they have a spot, but back there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, thanks, Dennis. Okay. I would like to say that I am in favor of granting the variances to the application for the same reasons as Jason, and as amplified by Dennis. It's great reuse of an existing building with the same use. So you're not changing any use, you're reducing the nonconformances and modernizing an old building down there, or modernizing an old corner down there and bringing it into the 21st century. I think it takes a lot of guts to be doing that in this environment, but it's not my call. These guys, the people who are doing it are a lot smarter than I am, and they know something that I don't. So I wholeheartedly wish them luck and would like to see them proceed. So I would tend to agree on that with Richard, Dennis, and Jason. And Bill?
Yeah, of course, in the beginning, I was kind of opposed because of the parking issue, but as Jason aptly said, that even if you had 19 spaces or even more, you're still going to have a parking issue down there. And it's just the nature of the beast. In many towns, as Jason said, you got the same problem. So I would be in favor of granting the variances.
Okay. Jason, can we count on you for a motion?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Okay, we need to leave executive session.
Oh, I'm sorry. A motion to leave executive or leave deliberations and return to the meeting.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
now that we're back in public session. I move to approve the variance for section 6.2.3B for side yard setback of 2.58 feet minimum and 12.5 feet total, where 10 feet and 30 feet total is required. And for 8.14 and 8.11 to provide for 12 parking places, where 8.1.4 requires 17 and 8.1.1 requires 2. So we're 19 are required on the basis that the total non-conformances are reduced.
all in favor?
No.
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 You have to have discussion.
You need a
Okay,
second.
first, you need a
Oh, who's the
second.
second? Sorry.
I'll second it and open it to discussion.
Mhm.
Okay, I would like to add to the end of what you said, the actual references to the Meyer, will, whatever, and to these, and saying that's later date
Basis.
of that, the basis of that is supersedes the state statute because of it's a later ruling. And we believe that to be pertinent to this discussion. So I don't have the words right here yet, so and
I think what you want to say, Ned, or I'm sorry, Dennis, is that you want to approve the variant, we want to approve the variance to 6 point. I scroll too much. You want to approve the variance to 6.2.3B
6.2.3B.
and 8.14 and 8.11 on the basis of total reduction of nonconformities with the in accordance with the decision in Meyer Whitman versus Stanford ZBA and the
of 2019
of 2019
superseding the stricter requirements stated in
you're gonna have to
Section-
type- you're
In
gonna
the
have to
general
type that.
statutes, Jeff.
yeah
Superseding what's written in Connecticut general statutes.
Right.
Public Act 17-39 Section 2.
Great. So should I
Okay.
type in chat?
Jason, do you have to mention the property location in your, in your,
I haven't before.
all right.
It's
Because I
pertinent to this.
remember at the last meeting, John Dolores said something about you have to mention the location of the property.
This is pertinent. I'm not being impertinent, but it's only relating to this one application located at 835 Boston Post Road.
Right, well, that's,
85.
885.
885, I'm sorry.
all right, so hold on, let me type this into chat so we can all agree to it.
Okay.
That's what I was-
885.
Variances.
That's what I was gonna start with.
Property. At 885 Boston Post Road. Variances for the property at 885 Boston Post Road. Including.
It can be as easy as requested,
As required.
because it's all documented here in the legal
Right.
notice of the sections and in the application.
As requested. On the. Basis
Of
of a
Reduction.
reduction of non.
conformances.
So to. What's the name of the general statute?
Public
Second.
Act 17, let's see, here we go again. Public Act, I got the wrong one here.
17 dash,
-39, Section 2.
okay.
There, everybody look in your chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to put the word, or just before CT, that say the 2017 CT general statute?
Use the citation.
Yeah.
reading.
And just for the purpose of having the date thing, that if there's ever any questions, I think everybody ever fights it, we say, look, here it is right here. We had a case that went to court after that law was written, and we approved it based upon the case that was subsequent to the law. So then we're covered.
Modified.
Okay, so,
62.
right, so make your motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wait. You want
I move,
I thought-
I move. Here we go. I'm just gonna read it.
Yep.
I move to approve the application for variances for the property at 885 Boston Post Road as requested on the basis of a reduction of nonconformities pursuant to the decision in Mayor Whitman versus Stanford ZBA of 2019, which supersedes the 2017 CT General Statute, Public Act 17-39, Section 2.
second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was easy.
Thank you. Good
Thank you
job.
very much. Thank
Okay,
you.
we got a couple other things on our agenda, but the other gentleman can go. So,
Thank you very much.
thanks.
Thank you. Good
Mhm.
luck. Okay.
Hey,
Okay,
guys, I have to leave. I have another commitment that I have to go and attend to. I agree with the schedule of meetings for the next year.
Okay.
And I agree with the meeting minutes.
Okay, I make a motion, we approve the meeting, the schedule for next year.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done.
Before we go, can
So-
I say one thing? I was gonna request Aaron, I don't know if, do you go by Aaron or Ms. Mannix, or I'm not?
Aaron is fine.
All right, Aaron. Thanks. So I was gonna request that we have an hour with the town council just to
Right.
bounce some
I'm
of the
gonna bounce
stuff.
out, guys.
Because do we need to vote on it? Do we need Jason there?
That's-
No, it doesn't require a vote.
Doesn't require a vote.
Ned
Because-
Ned can issue a special meeting of the ZBA anytime he wants.
Okay, thanks, Jason. So I was gonna say, because we keep having this issue where
Same.
people are demolishing a lot and saying they're reducing conformities and like the guy said, there was this Connecticut statute and then there's this case law that says you can count the reduction. So I really think we need to have a Q&A with the town attorney or whoever
Right.
they retain and just iron that out so we kind of know what we're talking about.
I agree with you 100% because it is very confusing.
So-
And go ahead.
We'll have some opportunities for continuing ed, and there are continuing education requirements beginning in 2023 for commissioners. One good opportunity is the Bar Association seminar, which is coming up this March, which is on
Very
a
good.
Saturday. And it's going to be held virtually again this year. So that's really one that I would highlight for the board to attend. We'll see what our availability is to try and get our land use attorney to do an update, training session ahead of that, if they're available for one of your next meeting dates.
Thanks, that would be great.
That'd be great.
One reminder that I just wanted to let the board know, January is, so the new charter was approved by referendum in November. became effective just last week. As part of that charter, which applies to various boards and commissions, the first meeting of January will serve to elect the chair of the board, as well as a requirement for a vice chair who would serve in the chair in in waiting position, I guess, if you would say that. So that's something that, should we have a meeting in January, that would be on the agenda to start thinking about. Ned, if you'd like to continue, or how, but that should be on our schedule for our January meeting for both
Okay.
nominations for both a chair and a vice chair. And I hope you all did read our next year's meeting does allow for an in-person with hybrid option. So we're hoping to be able to get our board members back in person if you're
Back.
available and able to come in person.
Yeah,
Um,
And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the seats that be up for election again next year will be for 4-year terms, not 2. Is that correct?
That it's a maximum of 4 years for a chair to serve.
I'm
So
not talking
it
about the
can be
chair, I'm talking
1-year
about-
terms. It's not for a 4-year.
I'm not talking about the chair. I'm talking about everybody. You get
For-
elected to the ZBA.
But we're
Oh, yes,
4-year
yes.
terms. We are 4-year, aren't we 4-year terms?
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
I know
didn't
that was
she-
for the selectmen. I have to double check that.
Yeah,
It's for the
Um,
selectmen
That's a
and
good question.
finance and,
maybe we already were, and I just didn't realize it. What the heck was I getting
Yeah.
myself
I'm
into?
sorry, I forgot you were, I have
Yeah.
planning and zoning commission on my brain who are appointed and not elected.
they're
Right.
I
appointed.
apologize.
Yeah, and we're,
Yeah, I'll look that up and I'll email you what that term is, just so we have that down. You're right.
yeah,
And my last comments before adjourning, I just wanted to let you all know that John Delora will be retiring as of January 1st. So I will, I guess the opportunity, John has served our town for 15 years as a zoning officer. And for about 3.5 as the wetlands officer, much to his chagrin. If we'd like to send a card or well wishes to John on his retirement, I'm happy to coordinate that on behalf of
Yeah.
him if you're.
Thank you, Aaron.
Mm.
He's good guy. Did a good job.
yeah,
Sure did. Sure served us well. Wish him the best.
yeah, it's
Big help.
a bigger story behind that, I believe. So, oh, well,
Okay. Well, with that, everyone have happy holidays.
You
And
too.
I'd like to say we will meet in January at some point. And hope everybody has a great holiday season and rest up for the year 2023.
yep,
You too,
Okay.
Ned.
okay.
Thank you,
move-
everyone.
Bye
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
All right, we're adjourned.